Stow Acres was founded in 1926 as Mapledale Country Club. It was the first black-owned golf course in Massachusetts when Robert H. Hawkins purchased the land and built 9 holes that today make up most of the front 9 of the South Course. The course also hosted the first 3 National Black Men's Championships from 1926 to 1928. So Stow Acres has a lot of rich, interesting history connected to its founding. The South Course today measures 6,520 yards from the tips, 6,132 yards from the whites, and 4,884 yards from the green tees. There is a little change going on with the South coming up in the future. They're taking their par 5 10th hole and turning it into a par 4 and using a chunk of the driving area on the original 10th hole and making that a 2-tier driving range. And the old driving range, if you've been to Stow, that you do know, will be given back to the wetlands and kind of the area and just become natural land again. So currently in 2024, to play Stow Acres South from Monday to Thursday, it's $49 to play 18 holes and $30 to play 9. If you are a senior, you can pay $40 to play 18 holes and get a cart for $12 instead of the normal $20. Juniors can play for $35, or they can play 9 holes for $25. So kind of nice they have some different rates. Friday to Sunday, it's $69 from opening until 2 p.m. And then after 2 p.m., it is $55, and you can also play 9 holes for $35. There is no 9-hole rate before 2 p.m. on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. Carts are $12 for 9 holes, $20 for 18. If you're in the pull cart mafia and you want to pull your golf cart, that is $4 for 9 and $7 for 18 holes. Stow Acres has a solid routing. It plays in some open, flat areas and also in through some trees, some rolling hills. There is a nice push and pull as you play the golf course. It's definitely the type of course that has a few little tricks you can pick up as you play it a few times. There are some blind tee shots. There are some run out areas that can get players into trouble. So there are some spots where if you play it a few times, you can maybe start to appreciate some of the nuances to the place and the routing that's pretty good. The golf course, condition-wise, in my memory of playing it a few years ago and also just playing it again this past week, it's a little shaggy. It's a little rough around the edges. The greens were pretty slow when I played it. If you get a lot of rain, there's a lot of collection areas. It's already surrounded and in some wetlands and some wet areas and fresh water. So, it can get a little bit wet, a little bit damp. It doesn't drain very well throughout the golf course. It's also one of those places, if you play it late in the summer and we've had a wet summer, it can just feel really overgrown in some spots. So you get trees that are kind of sticking out into playing corridors or maybe just ruining a hole a little bit, that if it was trimmed back a little bit or if some trees were taken down, it would open up the place and some sight lines and actually make it far better. Well, it certainly pays to know your way around Stow, because once you do, there are some scoring chances out there. There are some good holes, some solid holes that I think are worth checking out and worth paying to play. The value is okay for Stow right now as far as if you're combining conditions and price. The back 9 has a little bit more land movement and more interesting holes, maybe some more bad holes too, which I'll get to. But the par 5 10th, which is now changing to a par 4, currently has a par 5. It's a good hole. You have a blind second shot. It's a tricky layup. The par 4 13th is one I particularly like. Just the setting is kind of nice. There's some water and some farmland surrounding the hole. You hit down into a little valley and then back up to the green. You can try to reach the green if you want, but it's going to take a pretty good fade and good risk reward if you want to try to hit it up by the green. But the safe play, you can hit an iron, hit a wedge or a short iron up onto the green and see if you can make birdie that way. The best stretch of holes, while the back 9 is pretty good, the best stretch of holes is 5, 6, and 7. And I'd probably say the best 9 is kind of built into the middle of the golf course and not necessarily the front or the back. 5 and 6 are both par 5s. They play out and back. I find the closing stretch the most challenging, confounding of the bunch. Once you've played 13. 14 is kind of a boomerang, almost horseshoe par 5 where you've just got to go station to station. You can hit a 5-iron and then a 9-iron and a wedge gets you on the green. 15 is kind of a blah par 3 like most of the par 3s at Stowe. 7 is probably the best, just mainly for its length and for the setting. But the par 3s don't really inspire much excitement as a set. And then 16 is a really challenging par 4 where you're hitting up over a mound on your second shot, but the tee shot is tricky once again because there's just some trees you have to hit, kind of a pretty bendy ball to try to hit the fairway or get it up far enough. And if you hit it too straight, you just run out of room going through the fairway and possibly into the woods. So another hole that just doesn't quite make a lot of sense, but could make more sense with just a little bit more space to play. My favorite hole is the par 5, 5th hole. It's a good hole. It's got trouble on the right. The land slopes down that way, so if you do hit your tee shot a little bit to the right, a little bit errant, you're yelling at it as it's in the air to get on the ground because it's going to go skipping into the woods. You can also miss left into the woods, but that's a little safer over on the left side of the hole in general. The balls tend to tumble down away. And then as a par 5, you can kind of lay up down into a valley and have a wedge shot uphill it would be a blind shot from down there. And if you want to try to go for it, you could potentially have your ball roll down back a little bit into that valley, or you can get it up by the green. The green's not terribly challenging, and you can definitely make a birdie there. So that's a really good hole. After playing 1, 2, 2's kind of funky. So after playing the first 4, it's a nice opportunity to hit driver and let it rip and see if you can hit a long iron in and make a birdie. I think overall Stow Acres South has a ton of potential, and it'll be interesting to see what happens down the road when they turn it into a par 71 and they take that 10th hole and make it a par 4, so they're losing a stroke on par there. They're building a 2-tier driving range. They're taking away 9 holes from the north, so all of those things might mean that they have some more time and energy to potentially put into the south. If the south had some TLC, had some corridors opened up, had just conditions, just better conditions in general, it could be kind of back to its mid-90s point when everyone wanted to go play Stow North and Stow South. The USGA hosted a Publix on the north in the mid-90s, so there's some potential there for the South to kind of regain its former glory if they put time into it, if they put some energy into it, and they open it up a little bit, open some sight lines. There could be there's a lot of potential there. Overall, for the value, it's not bad, but it's not great. I wouldn't really direct people to go play there if they had a bunch of buddies in town and they wanted to play. But if you're looking to scratch the itch, if you're looking to get some interesting golf, maybe play some quirky holes and learn a little bit of history about the golf course, Stow Acres is not bad. I'm looking forward to seeing what's in store for the future at Stow South as they build it out and make some changes, and hopefully with 9 fewer holes to look after, make some improvements.